Morning, everybody. Welcome. Make yourself at home. The California Climate and Energy Collaborative team is really pleased to welcome you back for another of our monthly Local Energy Resources Network meeting. This is our 22nd. We've been at this for a couple of years. I really hope this meeting finds you well, that you weathered that bizarre hurricane and you're making a happy transition from summer to pumpkin season. I have my fall colors on, and actually behind me, I like to feature different parts of the state. So that is a picture from just a couple days ago from Mono County over on the eastern part of the Yosemite area. I am hoping that all of you that are comfortable will turn on your webcam. It's not mandatory. And also, if you could introduce yourself over chat, we would really appreciate it. Just tell us where you are, what part of the beautiful state you're in, what organization you're with as well. All right, next slide, please. So I will start. I'm Angie Hacker. I play the role of SEEK Statewide Best Practices Coordinator, and I'm joined by a couple of other members of the SEEK team. So John and Tila will introduce themselves over chat too, and you can always contact them if you're having any technical issues. But as always, these meetings are intended for us to come together. It provides space for local governments and those that work with them to dive in on programs and opportunities that can help you advance your energy and climate goals. So we know how busy you are. You're out there doing the work. We want to keep your capacity focused on action as much as we can. So you come here, and we're going to try to brief you on opportunities that can help you advance those goals. We're going to do it, in advance as much as we can, give you that long lead time and heads up so that you can prepare for those opportunities. And in some cases, even help inform their development, like today. So on the agenda on the right, we're going to go through our normal opportunity roundtable, and we have some guests from the California Energy Commission today, and they would like your help informing the development of a contractor training program. And there's an active RFI right now, but by being here, if you don't have the time to submit something formally to the RFI, we would love to have your input here today and just get her done live. All right, next slide, please. So as always, you don't have to worry too much about taking feverish notes, but we are going to send these slides out with afterwards as a follow-up. And we're going to put some of these links in the chat as we go through them as well. So if you are aware of opportunities on your end that we may have missed for some reason, we want to crowdsource those, and we'd encourage you to put them into the chat. And that could look like, hey, we're offering a training, or here's a new grant, or what about this new assistance program? So we would love to hear from you. I have a few I'd like to go through. This slide deck is built to be a hyperlinked cheat sheet, and then you can always dive in further. And I'm going to just talk about a few that I've highlighted in yellow because we've talked about some of the others before. And I like to organize these by due date. One thing I want to mention is something that we're not even going to talk about today that we've talked about before. A lot of the programs that are available and active right now, they're kind of a two-step application. And so they may have already had a concept paper or some kind of statement of interest requirement that's already passed. And so you wouldn't be eligible to apply if you missed those deadlines. So just keep that in mind. That's applicable to some of these, but there's a few new ones I wanted to point your attention to. Before that, I do want to give you one unfortunate policy update. Those of you that have been following us on SB 511 on local greenhouse gas inventories, update is that it was held in the Assembly Appropriations Committee a couple weeks ago, and it's not going forward this legislative cycle, but overcoming the barrier of local greenhouse gas inventories is still a high priority for Civic Well and for us at SEEK, and so more to come on that. The first program I wanted to make sure you're aware of is the DOE's Energy Futures Grant, so EFG, Phase 1. That's going to be a grant that is up to $500,000 in awards. It's due at the end of September. Hopefully, if you're interested, you've already heard about it and working on it. It is eligible for local, state, and tribal governments. The purpose is to enhance energy affordability and access for communities, ensuring the broad benefits of a clean energy economy. including health, economic development, and jobs and emission reductions, that they flow to disadvantaged communities. So you all are doing that. This may be a really good one for some of you. And we talk a lot about folks that are having a hard time accessing dollars. So just know that this is something that's really there to support under-resourced communities. That's a competitive grant. Another competitive grant is from the Department of Transportation, another federal one. This is the Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation, so SMART grant, and it's for stage 1 planning and prototyping. So it is eligible for all government entities. It's established to provide grants to eligible public sector agencies to conduct demonstration projects focused on advancing smart community technologies and systems in order to improve transportation efficiency and safety. So we've been trying to add more transportation programs to this list. Maybe that's something that you oversee directly, or you want to send over, I don't know. For me, it used to be like public works. So maybe you have some transportation folks that you want to make sure are aware of this, and you can help them make sure that it is doing the climate work well. The next one I wanted to mention, and that one is due October 10th. Next one I wanted to mention is the DOE's Energy Storage Demonstration and Validation Program. That one, you have a long lead time, so out into December. So that one makes me sigh a little bit of relief. It would probably be a complicated one because it's very technical, but it actually reminds me a lot of the CEC's EPIC grants that have recently been available. So if you're somebody who was interested in that, maybe you applied, didn't get it, or it was just on your radar, here's another chance. This one is for innovative long duration energy storage system demonstration projects that advance technology towards commercialization and validate its cost and performance in the field to the energy stakeholder community. The max award is $5 million. So say you're a community that really wants to be part of piloting these kinds of long duration energy storage battery projects. This is a good opportunity for you to be a site for that. You would potentially be an eligible entity or a partner. This one is one too, by the way, that could be something good to add to the Need Have board. So maybe Tila or John, you can throw that link. The Need Have board is something that we've been just easily maintaining. It's an informal way to flag your interest in partnership between jurisdictions or other service providers, partners. So say I have a grant, I need a grant writer, I need a partner for this grant, I have a site for a pilot project, I have this new program, I want you to come check it out. Just throw it on the Need Have board, but something like this that, the energy storage project or grant, it would probably require some matchmaking, some partners. So feel free to add something there if that's something you're already thinking about working on or interested. And the last one I wanted to mention in terms of a program, and this one has a really long lead time, is a prize. So this is again out of the Department of Energy, Community Energy Innovation Prize. It's not due until February of next year, so that's nice. Prizes are a little different. I don't think they're going to be like maybe as high dollar, but they have $7.5 million in cash prizes, as well as mentorship opportunities to organizations supporting innovation, entrepreneurship, capacity building, and economic development in communities historically underrepresented in climate and energy technology funding. So another opportunity out there from the DOE. DOE's got a lot going on. And in some cases, I know the CEC sort of helps to figure out how to allocate some of those dollars. And we are excited to have them here today with us to talk a little bit later, but particularly on that contractor training program. So that's up here under input. That's on blue. We're going to get to that next. I also just wanted to flag here for all of you, around the state, OPR has been doing California Climate Assessment regional workshops. Some of them have already passed, but this is an opportunity for regions to help inform OPR on how what's happening in their community when it comes to climate change. So there are various dates through September, but I think today is LA, tomorrow is San Diego, and I want to say next week is Imperial County. So a few more left. Last but not least, you're going to hear me talk about this a little bit more later. The state, we are developing something we're calling the state and local energy and climate coordination meetings. And that's as a result of a really good conversation some of you joined us for on June 13th, right before the SEEK forum. And so those of you that did attend, you will, and actually any of you who are in our list that are a local staff representative of a local or regional government. You're going to receive an invitation from us really soon for the next meeting. And I just wanted to let you know it's scheduled for September 28th. And it's a partnership with some state agencies, including CECs, Strategic Growth Council, and CARB, and hopefully other agencies as well. So it's just a heads up, you're going to get that email. We hope that you come and join us for those discussions where we're going to try to really understand and address some of the key statewide needs together. All right, next slide. So thanks to anybody who's been adding things to the chat. Please continue to do so. This isn't my normal opportunity spotlight. All I wanted to do here was give some good news. I know so many times we're encouraging you to go for grants, and you do, and it's so hard. It's a lot of work, and I just want to congratulate those of you who are awarded or are going to receive the benefits of being part of an award. And so this one is just highlighting that the California Strategic Growth Council recently voted to approve more than $750 million in affordable housing and sustainable community awards. So that's a good amount of money. And that goes on top of several rounds of this grant where they've overall spent $3 billion. It's been $3 billion invested to develop new affordable homes that are also tied into sustainable communities. And I just wanted to say a big congrats to the beneficiaries of those new awards in the communities that are listed and bulleted on this slide. And at some point, next time this grant comes around, we'd like to encourage any of you who are a partner to those awards to come and talk to us about how you did it, what you did, and how it's going. So hopefully we'll hear more from you another day. But congrats. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we're going to go to our featured speakers now, and this is a good opportunity. So we have a few people from the California Energy Commission, and really we have been having a lot of good conversations with them because there's so much money coming down from IRA. They are staffing up. They have a lot to do to deliver these programs out to you. And today, they have offered to come out and do a live input session with us on their contractor training RFI. That training RFI is connected to some of the programs we've been telling you about, the Homes program, the HERO program, and Affordable Building Decarb. And so it's going to be a good way for them to try to build up the contractor base out here in California to help get those projects in the ground and into homes. So first, I want to introduce Christine Colopy. She is the Deputy Director of Reliability, Renewable Energy, and Decarbonization Incentives, so READY Division at the California Energy Commission. We love Christine. We've known her for a long time, and she was lovely enough to bring a lot of her team here. And I just wanted to open up to you first, Christine.
Thank you so much, Angie, thank you for the intro, and thank you so much for having the Energy Commission today. We're excited to be here. I'm Christine Colopy. I'm in a newly formed division at the Energy Commission, which is really centered around incentives. And I'm heading up the section related to building decarbonization incentives. So under this portfolio is a lot of our existing programs that we maybe have worked with some of you on, like our ECA program, and then we have the BUILD program, and we have the California Electric Homes program. We also do the school stimulus programs. So it's the ventilation and the plumbing programs. But what we are launching this year is that I'm going to be standing up 2 new branches, which are very exciting because it's going to impact a lot of you, and doing a lot of hiring. So Carol, our speaker today, is one of the new hires, which the Energy Commission is thrilled to have. And Carol's a supervisor in over the incentives. And so the new branches we're standing up are for the Equitable Building Decarb program that maybe some of you have participated in, the guidelines development. That has the direct install program for statewide program. And then we have a tribal direct install program. And then we also have incentives as part of the Equitable Building Decarb program. And we're going to be finding a way to marry those or somehow leverage or braid or whatever we're going to call it with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, HERO rebates. And Carol's really leading that effort for us now. If my team is on the phone, it looks like I've got a handful of staff. Carol's going to be our presenter today. Thank you, Carol. I also have May Chang on the phone, Susan Mills, Pam Doman, and Amber Beck. And these are folks that are working on our program, a lot of new hires and just a lot of really smart folks. So these are going to be your partners in all of our different programs. And so wanted to expose them to what you do at CivicWell. It's so important. So I want to expose our new staff to this today as well. And we are eager for your input. The contractor, IRA contractor RFI, it's labeled IRA. But this is going to be really informative for our EBD, our Equitable Building Decarb program as well. And so we thank you again for having us. And thank you for all of your comments orally today, or if you are also submitting them through the RFI. Thank you for being our partners, and thank you for having us. And I'm going to turn it back to Angie to do Carol's intro.
Thanks, Christine, and everybody at CEC. It really means a lot to us that you are taking the time to be here. So let me introduce you to Carol Schmitt. She is the Supervisor of Rebates and Incentives and the Equitable Building Decarbonization IRA at the CEC. And she just joined the Ready Division in August, so she's only been around for 4 weeks, so we're going to be kind. But she brings 25 years of experience managing and leading clean energy, decarbonization, and technology programs and projects. Her career spans enterprise technology, cyber security, and climate tech. And fun fact, she recently moved to Humboldt County and just completed an electrification project in her home. So before I hand it off, I just want to say, please add questions to the chat as we go. CEC is not going to be able to answer anything because this is a live solicitation. They can't answer everything. They can't tell you all about the program that hasn't been developed yet. But if there's clarifying questions, add them to the chat. We'll see what we can do to answer those. And please be ready. So this is going to be an interactive discussion. We really want your input. So many of you have experience on the ground on these programs, doing workforce development, market transformation. The CEC is here because they really want to know, how have you made those work? What ideas do you have and suggestions? What needs do you know about? So get ready to participate. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Carol. Thanks, Carol, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Angie, and thanks, everybody. This is a great opportunity. If we can just jump right in, because as you said, we want to get as much input as we possibly can. So if we could go to the next slide. One of the things I think, with that great introduction from Christine and the fact that we have so many team members here, it's kind of a great idea from my perspective, as you said, coming in my 4th week here at the Energy Commission in the state, to keep in mind always the goals of what we're trying to do with equitable building decarbonization, and in particular, reduce greenhouse gas emissions and do that in a measurable way, as well as to advance energy equity, and specifically with the federal programs you're familiar with, Justice 40, and how do we get there. But all of those other things that fall within it is part of what we're trying to achieve as well. So resiliency to extreme heat. We had another hot summer, record-breaking summer. We definitely know about air quality, being able to support the grid that is much more reliable, and respecting very much how important that is to health, happiness, and livelihood, as well as this local workforce. And a lot of the things in the RFI concerning contractor training directly relates. And also those sub goals. So being able to support climate ready and climate friendly homes and goals, as well as the installation for heat pumps in particular. And as was mentioned, I just put 2 heat pumps in myself. So I definitely know when it comes to contractor training, there's a great deal of difference in both the workforce we have today, as well as the one we need tomorrow for the future, for maintaining as well as setting things going forward. So if we go to the next slide. These are links, and I know the team, Angie and team, have, we're going to be putting these into the chat as well. So that we were talking about in general, here's our website for specific to the IRA. We've also stood up recently emails, if you haven't taken advantage of these, when you have questions or want to guide people to them. The IRA specifically is mentioned here, and at the end, we'll repeat these emails as well. But we do have, at the last slide, some additional information, as well as for this particular RFI on contractor training. And I want to say right up front, thank you to people in the audience who have already submitted comments. We greatly appreciated. We extended the comment turn to September 25th. So I think Angie is planning to to gather all of the input from this session, both verbal and written, and submit it as a formal comment. Is that correct, Angie?
Yes, that's right. So any feedback you provide here, we'll submit on your behalf. We're going to synthesize with whatever feedback we receive. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Next slide, please. All right, so for the contractor training, this is the allocation that was given to California is $10 million. Sorry for the formatting, but September 25th was the extended comment period deadline, and then we do have to get our applications into the DOE by January 31st. I think, again, it's always great to focus on goals, and specifically for the contractor training, the ask is to be able to make sure that we find ways to reduce costs, to train the contractors in these key markets and communities, provide the testing and certification that is needed within our state program, as well as to partner with nonprofit and local community organizations to develop and implement the programs. And again, there's that email we're asking you guys to submit through that methodology or formally as well. So if we go to the next slide. This is where we were going to do interactive. And should I hand it over to you, Angie, and I can keep talking about how this works?
I'll just say we're going to go to Jamboard. So we have a way to grab your input a lot of different ways. You can put it in the chat. We prefer if you put it in the Jamboard if you want to write it, or if you want to, we do want some dialogue out loud. So you have a few different ways to do it. So we're going to go ahead and throw the Jamboard in the chat so you can access it. And then we're going to go through questions. There's 8 questions. And yeah, Carol, why don't you just walk us through the first one? We're going to go one by one and give you a little time to provide input.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So the first question, it really relates to just generally trying to get available state and federal information about contractor training that is available for California. And again, we're looking at residential, as that's pretty key, both single family and multifamily. What do we have that's available for credentialing, being able to auditor availability? But in reality, we're really looking for things that also go beyond what are the lists and locations, but it's skills assessment reports. So ultimately, we're trying to identify both what's the informational and technical capacity that we have to support our communities as they decarbonize and electrify, and being able to figure out ways that they can then provide the skill sets that are necessary. As Christine mentioned about homes and HERA, here's these great programs that are going to be funding different technical equipment and implementations. But if we don't have the workforce to be able to do that, we're all going to struggle. And so the way that we're looking at this is, first and foremost, can you provide anything that's available, pointers to that kind of overall information?
All right, so we're going to swap over to show you the Jamboard. Let us know if you had any trouble connecting to it. But again, it's in the chat. You should just be able to link right over. And all you have to do is double click, or you can copy and paste a blank Post-it and add your comments in a Post-it on, here we are, Q1. There's going to be 7 different boards. This is a great opportunity for you to showcase some of what you are doing. So this question is really asking you about your, similar contractor training programs around California. I would love, while people are adding to the Jamboard, for any dialogue here. I'd love for you, anybody who's willing to share out loud. You can do that by raising your hands. I see some good activity happening here. And John, let me know if you see anybody with their hands raised. So, what we did here is we put a couple of things in advance. One is from LERN because we know that they have submitted some comments here. And so, they mentioned their own workforce education and training program, as well as the Department of Economic Opportunity that offers some workforce services in LA County. I dropped in here a link to all of the regional energy network business plans that describe their various workforce education and training programs. There's 5 of them that have a new 10-year business plan, and most of them, I believe, do include workforce education and training. So that's one way to see that those are a lot. Those are some of the biggest programs in the state that are active right now. And I also included California's tech program. Of course, you guys know about that, but I did have conversations too with folks from the tech program who have offered some ideas as well. But that's obviously a big one if we're looking at the full landscape of who's doing what. So
Yeah,
again,
yeah, sorry. And I was going to put, we had a really great on the assessment side, the Bay Area High Road Training Partnership said it was currently conducting an industry analysis. Is that, you're shaking your head, yes. So is that it looks like it's pretty fascinating and would fit quite well with the types of information that we're trying to gather. So, and it looks like it's in development. So we do want to reach out and provide both input to that study as well as being able to benefit from it.
I can actually speak to that very quickly. Hi, I'm Chiara Ariano. I run and help facilitate the High Road Training Partnership via Rising Sun. So I was the one that gathered our partners' comments for that letter. And yes, we definitely wanted to reach out, and we were trying to figure out who the right person was because we knew there were lots of new hires and shifting around. But we'd love to set up a meeting with your team to talk through that forthcoming research that wasn't ready to be shared in our letter, but the findings will be coming throughout the rest of the year and this fall, hopefully. And then we're also working, in addition to our industry analysis, on this workforce training and access guide, which hopefully will do some of this sort of training resource mapping, specifically for the Bay Area, because that's the scope of our partnership. But I think that could be still helpful as a model. So I can drop my email in the chat and would love to talk further.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And you're reminding me, as you guys are giving examples, if you want to throw a link so that CEC can learn more or an email address, do that in your post-it. And Carol, is that something you guys are entertaining as individual meetings, or how does that work when there's a live solicitation for information?
I'll punt that to Christine to answer.
We've been taking, we could take meetings before we drop like solicitations and things like that. But we've been taking lots of meet and greets for both the EBD program and the IRA program, but we are limited in what we can really talk about because they could, if we're going sort of beyond the bounds of the solicitation, we don't want to jeopardize anyone's participation in that solicitation. So this RFI is going to impact the Energy Commission's application for the $10 million in funds. So all the information you're providing us today is informing the Energy Commission to apply to DOE for the formula funds. And it's a little confusing. Why do we have to apply for formula funds? Because we always have to put it in an application. And that application was due on September 30th, and they've extended it to January. But that's what this is going to inform. And then after we get the funding, then the CEC is going to decide what we should do with that funding. We'll probably maybe do another RFI or use the information from this one. And then we'll do a solicitation based on how we think we should spend that money. Should we pass it on to local governments? Should we pass it on to existing programs? Should we create new programs? Should we make it part of the Homes and Hero programs? There's so many ways we can spend this $10 million. And, we're going to want to hear from you about that as well. And I know you're going to be giving us some of that today. But just know that's the steps. CEC will apply for the money. We'll get the money. Then we'll decide how we're going to spend that money.
That helps. Thank you, Christine. Before we move to the next question, I want to encourage a local or regional program to say a few more words about what they're, just give us a little more flavor of what kind of program you're running. Anybody feeling brave? I see a lot of folks putting it in the Post-its. All right, people are being a little quiet so far. All right, so let's go to question 2.
Okay. So if we go to that, we're very closely aligned to the first one. We're obviously interested in making the contractor training more affordable, as well as in the communities that need it most. So what we're trying to do is find those programs most closely aligned with the goals that I talked about earlier, that were related to how do we cut the costs, how do we make it more available, and how do we make it more aligned with things like the Justice 40 communities. And it's not surprising to anybody on this call that lowering costs is not just an issue to the homeowner or the building owner and multifamily. It relates to the contractors themselves. So we are definitely looking for input for those kinds of things. And we are looking for comments about ways to make it more cost effective to deliver at a broader scale.
Okay, so let's go back over to our Jamboard. Same link, but go to the next board over. So you can click that little right arrow. Same idea. You can drop your comments into these Post-its. You can put something in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you out loud. Just want to note here down below, we did paste the project goals here for your reference so you can remember what those project goals are. So that's down below. Oh, and thank you, Lauren, in the chat, telling us about your 5-part on-demand series on heat pumps. Maybe you should Lauren, tell us who you are. What organization are you with? All right, I see. Oh, Lauren, yeah. Go ahead. I see your hand raised. Do you want to speak? You'll have to unmute, or actually you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. I am doing outreach in Northern California as we speak as a representative for LERN, and I've made some really great connections. There was a program with Shasta College through their Economic Workforce Development Department that had partnered with a local business and the Builders Exchange, but they could not find a instructor for their HVAC program. So it never took off. What's interesting is that I have been providing some of these trainings for HVAC for a while, and they were delighted for me to just come in and show up and introduce myself. So that partnership is still kind of active. They're going to rally their troops and see where they're at and what they, the capacity of putting that on again. But their original effort was pre-COVID, and since we're through COVID, which pushed a lot of these trainings online, they would like to lower costs by providing a hybrid program, whereas classroom session would sort of be online and offered at different modalities like sort of after work hours and or once a week on the weekend or something like that, where it's more conducive to a working professional who has to be at work all day and then they can go to class at night. And then a in-person intensive. One of the businesses that they partnered with was a sheet metal fabricator, and he was willing to allow the in-person intensive to be held at his office so that the contractors could get hands-on training and really work with the equipment. And I thought that was really a forward-thinking business that wanted to partner with these training facilitators. So that was one thing that I found in this outreach trip. Another thing that I'm looking at and have gotten some good feedback is that there are really, really localized organizations that work with the EDD office, the Employment Education Department. And they are partnering with some of these CBOs to provide these trainings that are short-term, like not through the colleges, but really short-term, 1 week or a weekend trainings. And they would like them to be certificated so that somebody can walk away and go get into the workforce with this certificate. One of the big requirements that some of these CBOs have is that their whole focus of getting funding is that they have to produce people who can get into the workforce right away. So they hold job fairs once the training is completed.
Thank you, Lauren. So helpful.
Yeah.
I see Tessa from SoCal also put something in the chat. If you want to say anything, elevate that out loud, feel free, or anyone else. We're going to take one more out loud comment.
Well, I just wanted to, Tessa Charnovsky, SoCal. Our classes are, so we have classes on access to capital, heat pump and retrofit construction, labor compliance, bonding and insurance. So a lot of this is estimating. It is not, they're not certificated programs at this point, although it would be great to establish those at some point. But these are really, really critical training programs for these contractors to understand how to get into this work, but they're not certificated.
Okay, thank you, Tessa. All right, you guys, just so you know, you're not the only time to add something to the Jamboard is not just now. So we're going to give you extra time. You'll have like another week or so to add things to the Jamboard if you'd like. So don't stress. But thank you for the input here. Should we go to question 3, Carol? Let's do it.
Yep, sounds great. So this particular question kind of, again, we're looking for the gaps in existing workforce development. And I think some of the examples that just came up were pretty spot on in that trying to figure out where we're missing the qualified people and what kinds of skill sets are needed to be able to hit this future demand if we're trying to do that many millions of heat pumps, and being able to deploy them, what does that qualify for? And so one of the things I think, Lauren, when you were talking that came to mind was we've had requests for virtual power plants. If you're installing heat pumps, having someone who is doing that work that also understands mobile applications and how to be able to help people and train the people actually using them in the setup is a relatively new skill that is something that we need. So as part of this, we have target criteria from the DOE about using the CJEST data set. And if you haven't seen that already, it's the federal government's nationwide cut on environmental equality and equity and economic justice as a screening tool. So those will give you some insights into communities specific to IRA and where we're going to be looking for contractor training needs and focus. But it's also, as part of this, in this gap assessment, we'd like to understand if there are pilot programs that are underway. We got some hints through some of the comments that there are programs that are just starting versus ones that have been in play for a while. And so if there are some with successful track records, or if you're just getting off the ground, we want to know about those as part of the gaps assessment too.
Okay, I see some activity in the Jamboard. This is where I think this is the meatiest question of all. It's like, okay, what needs are you guys seeing out there? So is anybody feeling like they want to raise some things out loud? Please raise your hand. This one's the hard one. What are we going to do about it? You know, what gaps and what ideas do you have? I'm dropping in a few comments here from a conversation I had with folks that are administering the tech program, the statewide tech program. They're doing some contractor work. They had suggested that, you know, priority gaps are to help contractors, especially small businesses, afford to help them and their employees gain industry recognized credentials that help them take advantage of these programs. And they're talking about stipends or mini grants to contractors for things like trainings for HVAC installers, panel and pump electrification. And the advice was to make sure we collaborate with industry to make sure that we use industry recognized certifications so that it's really valuable. Who else would like to share? Let's see. Somebody saying there are gaps in the workforce development programs in rural regions, thinking about Truckee, Tahoe, Sierra Nevada specifically here. Yeah, great point. Gaps don't just have to be across the board. There might be regional gaps. And I think we ought to talk about that. Carol and I were talking about it yesterday a little bit, just the needs are different across the state. There's not a homogeneous set of needs across the state. So some of the more urban areas are going with major high road programs and prevailing wage and working closely with labor. And other parts of the state, they hardly have contractors available to do this work. So let's talk about it. I mean, that's a big gap to me. I don't know how to solve it necessarily, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, I can come off mute. My name is Meredith Anderson. I'm at Sierra Business Council, project manager on the climate and energy team. But yeah, this is a problem that we are actively trying to work on. You know, there is just a lack of contractors in this region to work on electrification projects. I think there's a lot of, you know, still a lot of kind of negativity surrounding the whole electrification argument to begin with, but you know, there are, you know, not a lot of contractors to work on it. So Sierra Business Council and the Climate Transformation Alliance in North Tahoe and Truckee, we're working on standing up this Truckee Tahoe Building Decarbonization Pilot Program. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach. There's a workforce education and training piece, kind of a public outreach campaign, and then a one-stop shop coaching service. But yeah, for that workforce education and training piece, we are, you know, we're actively trying to put together kind of an inventory of trainings that would be possible for rural contractors to take, and you know, us to provide scholarships for to make it more accessible. So this conversation is definitely super helpful.
Yeah, and you know, some of this depends on how complicated the programs that are going to be tied to these contractors are. Like if contractors are expected to engage in really complex programs, then the training may need to be different. If they're easy and intended to onboard brand new folks into this scene, then then it's a different set of trainings. I think it's, yeah. Does anybody want to speak to that? Just a goal, like how your goals on the ground, if you're running local or regional programs, is it to just spark, you know, a new market, or is it to really go and advance a pretty mature market? All right, well, we're getting all sorts of input here on the Jamboard, so I feel good about it. Here, electrical service panel, okay, optimization, understanding how heat pumps work and are different from gas systems so that they're sized right and set up correctly. Educational gap to help contractors move away from like-for-like replacements and get comfortable with recommending heat pumps. And then here's it more general and providing a path for more gender diversity in the workforce. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Well, good. What do you feel good about that and ready to move on, Carol? All right.
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely. It's great input. So please keep it coming too. So I think for the next set, questions 4 and questions 5 are kind of interrelated. speaks to the topic of certifications. And somebody had mentioned, let's make sure that we're aligning with how industry is saying that. And then we also have vendor. It was a suggestion to make sure that we align with certifications with, as vendors work with their contractors. But in addition, this plays really well to how we want to make sure that we're developing really good workforce, but also that they're getting to good jobs that pay well, provide the benefits, provide opportunities to all, as well as being able to have safe working conditions, you know, so this is important. So question 4, and if you skip to the next slide, question 5 is kind of related. So what data is specifically available on these certifications? So if you have pointers to where we can find out more about what these certifications look like so that we can be able to know more where they're located. And as Angie pointed out, statewide by the different regions that we have.
All right, back to the Jamboard. So as you can see, the next board takes question 4 and 5 together. So you can see here, so, you know, this is really for folks that are kind of in the weeds, that really know the industry and what certifications are necessary and maybe have some data to support what's necessary. Maybe Rising Sun and their studies are going to help us here. But anybody want to raise their hand and address anything out loud? Oh, here we go. We got somebody, Stella, from Grid Alternatives. She doesn't have access to Jamboard, but she suggests that we need a program for formerly incarcerated. Oh, okay. This is to the last question.
Yeah.
To receive basic EE training.
Sorry about that.
Yep. That's okay. Nope, you're good. We'll add it.
Cool. Thank you.
Anybody with a hand raised here?
Very quickly, this is kind of captured in our comment letters. I know that this is primarily focused on contractor training, but we did break up our comments into, you know, when we talk about credentials and different sort of skill metrics, it differs depending on whether we're talking about new workers or incumbent workers in the field that are already working under a contractor doing this type of work, whether we're talking about workers who might be transitioning into doing this work or working on new technologies in their existing field, or again, talking about contractors. And then within contractors, there's still like gradients of, you know, are they upskilling? Are they transitioning into this work for the first time? So we talked a bit, and this is not my area of expertise personally. This is something that I tried to glean from other experts in our partnership. So I'm definitely not the person to ask questions here, but we did talk with folks who said those sort of standardized credentialing to have more cohesion statewide in terms of what we're requiring is really helpful. But we also had partners say, let's not go back to the IRA era where we create a new sort of dead end credential that's very specific to certain rebate programs that then require contractors to go through the whole training process, but it doesn't really lead anywhere or like link with the existing network, which is why I know you all are trying to map out what's currently out there. But the model that one of our partners really highlighted is this HVAC excellence process, which does have that sort of industry recognized cohesive approach. Yeah.
Thank you. Super helpful. And you know, go ahead,
I'm
Christine.
sorry, I have a follow-up question to that. So is that the HVAC certification, is that taking in the electrification elements, or is it standard? Is it both fuels or?
I think it is taking into account the electrification.
Okay. Right.
And then there's also the NATE HVAC support certifications, which some of these certifications again have like the different levels or courses that you can take depending on, you know, are you a technician? Are you a, you know, contractor, et cetera, et cetera.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was going to add the Energy Star. One of the comments came in about the Energy Star Heat Pump Water Heater Action Council training group and what Energy Star is doing. So, which is quite a bit, and something to take advantage of too.
Well, and it will be important because they're DOE rebates, so they will have to be Energy Star certified equipment, and we know that will be an issue for some of the manufacturers.
So Christine, since you're right there and I see your face, I just want to clarify. I think that we don't know yet the target, right? So this is as contractor training, but it could be all sorts. We don't have a specific target underneath the umbrella of contractors that we're really looking to serve here, like new versus large, or certain kinds of contractors, or even non-contractors, trying to onboard them into contracting.
Well, I think we know some things right now. I think we know what the target appliances are.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what the targeted appliances are, I mean, we could probably put in the chat. They probably will be similar to what's under the EBD program, like in the guidelines for the direct install program, SANS, all the weatherization, remediation, right? But if you get to the targeted electrification appliances, we think they'll be the same. So what we do know is that the homes program in the guidance is a whole house retrofit program. So we do know it's targeted at single family, and we know it's targeted at multifamily. The Energy Commission we know it's labeled as an energy efficiency program, but even DOE is talking electrification, and we're talking decarbonization. So that's the same thing. So just know that that's where the Energy Commission is going to move their homes program. Like, it's going to be efficiency plus, decarbonization, other decarbonization strategies. And so we know that. So we're going to need a workforce for that. We also know that the HERA are rebates for electrification or decarbonization measures. We sort of know where those are coming from, and we know what those are going to be. So we know that we're going to need a workforce to support those things. And we're all about helping HVAC contractors install, like, fuel switching. They've got to stop installing just the same, gas HVACs. They've got to be training into what the future in California is holding. We know what that is. EBD is the same program. It's going to have it's the same measures. Carol mentioned, we know the workforce is not ready. We know that. We're already seeing complaints through the installations that are happening now through our building standards compliance programs. And so we sort of do know what we're trying. We know what our target is because we know what our targeted appliances are.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. My brain keeps wanting, I want to like pull together buckets. What are the buckets of the kinds of workforce that we are going to target, and then like figure out backup needs from there.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andy, but I do think they're the buckets of the money. But right now we'll have some kind of whole house, upgrade program. It won't be a direct install. And our targets are also low income, disadvantaged communities. I know there's mod income eligibility here, but our target has really been to be, equity is one of our number one tenets. Justice 40 at the federal level. What that means, that's a new requirement. It means 40% of our funding must go to what they define as disadvantaged communities. And we're right there. We're ready to do that.
Yes. Thank you, Christine. Super helpful. I see Kevin with his hand raised. We're going to have to start summing up here. So if you have a brief comment, then we're going to try to wrap these questions.
Great. And thanks, Christine. Good to see you again. Thank you for being here today. It's really critical that your team is here. So for CCAC and the work that we do, we're in homes doing in-home whole house assessments using the EPA home healthy homes tools. One of the things we identify and put together resources for our energy efficiency. And then if people have swamp coolers, we're moving actively toward helping them dump those and get heat pumps on these homes. What we don't have is the training to, number one, make those assessments as far as the energy needs of the home, and is the energy service of the home adequate? And number two, it's really difficult to find somebody to actually do the work in the rural areas of the San Joaquin. And we work in all 8 counties. And the further south you go, the harder it is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work out there. I can tell you right now, we've got folks on wait lists for 2 and 3 months for equipment installs that have already been approved and have money behind them to pay for, because these are health issues. And so I think one of the things that folks don't know is DHCS in the state of California are paying for some of these things, heat pumps specifically, and some other energy efficiency tools that we can bring to these homes, like energy efficient range hoods. And you'd be surprised, air purifiers, there's a whole list. But anyway, so my team's out there doing this, and we're kind of making it up as we go along. And we don't really like doing that, but we're having a hard time finding people who can help us, people who can teach my team what to look for and when to pass it off. So it's not quite, you talk about wraparound services. We do wraparound services. So we're not just assessing that, we're assessing a number of needs in the home. But we also then do something about it and connect to various local service providers of these kinds of things. So I think folks like us and the work that we do, there's several groups in LA that do this, and one up in the Bay Area and in Alameda County. So I think it's important because we're actually in people's homes. Again, literally at this point, several thousand across the valley. So if you can help us out here, we'd sure love to work with you.
So Kevin, I think those are great comments. And I think that, there's opportunities where, like, if there's $10 million, maybe some of the money is used to marry with our programs. Maybe part of that money we send out to the rural counties to help them build their workforce. And
Yes.
There's ways we can do it, but we'd love to hear from you. I also saw a comment in there about something I want to hear more about. If you can make more comments about it. Darn it. You move those little Post-it notes around so quick, I can't see which one it was.
You know
Oh,
what, Christina, we're about to be over with time.
Licensing. Yes, we want to talk more about licensing. If there's ways we can help pay for that, if that's the bridge you're talking about, we'd love to hear your idea. That's interesting.
And
Right. Thank you. So, I just want to mention that there are 3 other questions here. We're not going to have time to dive into it, but you're going to have access to, oh, did I? Uh-oh. We're going to have access to the Jamboard for, like I said, another week. So feel free to continue to add anything that you'd like. There's one on performance metrics and targets. There's one on community benefits. And there's one on other input, so general input. And I think I just want to hand it back to Carol for any closing remarks.
Yeah. So if we can go back to the slides, and thank you again, this input has been great. There's a million questions to be answered. There we go. So again, some key links, and Christine's been talking about that we have the guidelines are being finalized on this program. So watch this space. Next slide, please. And then I know that Amber had mentioned the hub. So Amber, we were putting this plug out there as well about a new resource that's just been stood up. It's on the website, and it provides energy resources for homeowners and renters, for local government representatives, as well as for the people doing the installation and work. And there's a key link. And then if you go to the last slide, or the second to last, we're hiring. So yeah. So this is something that we're putting the word out, and we're looking for great people to join the team, to be able to, wide variety of skill sets and needs. And so to get these programs rocking and rolling, we appreciate it. And we love the data nerds. That's my term. So, please pass them our way. And then if you can go to the last slide.
And before we go, we're hiring, just know we are a remote centric employer, and you must just live in California, but you can work anywhere. So you come work for us and pass it on to your family and friends.
Yes, please. And then the final slide was just those links again, so that if you do want to directly comment in addition to today to the contractor training RFI, please do. These 2 different emails, we have quite a few people have been submitting all kinds of questions to us, and this is a relatively new thing as well. So we appreciate so much this opportunity. So thank you so much for everybody on the call and all of the comments, and particularly to Angie and team for coordinating and collaborating and pulling it all together.
We're so
Thank
happy
you.
to do this. Yeah. Thanks you guys for being here. Thanks everybody for really good thoughts. Like I said, you have another week to throw stuff in the Jamboard. If you're going to submit your own comments, they're due September 25th, and you should, if you have the capacity, submit your own comments in detail. But we will compile as much as we can. And if there's disagreement in the comments, it's fine. We're just going to articulate the perspectives in our network. It's okay.
And Angie,
next
we'd love to come to one of your future meetings for
Oh.
when the next phases.
You know what? We love you. So come all the time. Yeah, we'll talk more. All right, next slide. This is the end. We're gonna skip that one. This is the end of our official 1 hour meeting. And then we actually hang around for another 15 minutes because you guys gave us the feedback that you said you wanted more informal time to chat. So that's coming right now. And then otherwise, we're gonna see you next month for those of you that have to go. Thanks for being here. And this is our sort of seamless, just going on to our bonus breakout. And actually, if CEC folks want to stick around, there might be more to say here. Folks might feel really geared up to continue the conversation. But here's an opportunity if you have a announcement, success story, opportunity, you have a need for information, collaborators, or advice, or if you just want to share a topic that you want to see at a future LERN, all of that is available. You know, you can, the world's your oyster. I'm going to let you all drive the direction of where this informal piece goes.